Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to FM23 Newton Heath. This is episode number 50. So we're at the halfway point of a century, but we're also at the halfway point of the off season. Actually, really more than that. We're at the halfway point of the players having returned and preparing for the season to come. With that in mind, things have been kind of a mixed bag on how they've gone so far. One thing in particular is driving me absolutely up the wall. Justin Aboa has become the snake of all snakes and is absolutely driving me nuts with literally daily messages, with literally multiple daily messages on, 2 or 3 days a week. The fight of all fights. Aboa is furious that we have not accepted bids for him. Now, we got all the way up to about 60K in bids. He has a transfer release clause for 82,000. I knew it was inevitable with the interest that was being shown the moment the transfer market opened. I knew it was inevitable that he was eventually going to sign somewhere else. But 82,000 is a small clause, and there is zero reason for me to take less than that when he is worth so much more than that. He is easily worth that, and he easily should bring that money in. Now, finances aren't important to us, and morale is. So when he made his billionth gesticulation over how he was feeling in regards to it, and suddenly a number of the team just said, okay, let's just let the guy go. I said, okay, let's let the guy go. So just today, I offered him out for 77,000 and got offers of 20,000 from 20 different clubs in return. Said no. So then when 2 hours later, they double the offers, and again, we say no because it's still half of the release clause and half of what I was asking, and right now I'm willing to take 75. I'm not taking less than the 60 that we were already being offered. And the snake that Aboa has now become, and he was such a fantastic player this last year, but he's identical to Shaq Ford, and his performance was identical to Shaq Ford. So it's not like he is the piece that makes all the difference with this team. He is a piece, and he's a good piece, and he will be missed. But screw this guy if he thinks I'm going to take less than what we were already offered, when clearly, in just a matter of a couple of hours, many teams are showing up and giving offers. But let's play out this drama, and let's see if we can get up to that 70 plus range at least before I say yes. And then we'll focus on everybody else and what's going on there. So just a few minutes ago, while I was already starting the recording, I had previously had reject all transfer offers set for Aboa because I didn't want to accept anything less than the 82,000. I changed his transfer value to 75K. I changed it to I'll respond to transfer offers myself. I saved that. I moved on. I'm saving it again. Here it is. Now you're my witness because I just had 3 $70,000 offers rejected on my behalf because it thought that I was still a reject all offers. Great to see the game still being buggy like that, but looks like we should be able to get 70K out of this one. Middlesbrough, Sunderland, Watford, all having come in on that. We'll see if they offer again, though. Unfortunately, the soft part that I put was future sale, and both Sunderland and Middlesbrough have left that part out, but they are giving us the 70,000. So at least we've got that, and we are going to be parting ways here very soon, it looks like. And with the yeses, a whole lot of other championship sides have suddenly decided that Aboa is worth the money and don't want to miss out. And so we've got a whole lot of offers coming in. We do have a couple coming in a bit less so on the upfront part, but then you have the profit of next sale and friendlies with Huddersfield and Peterborough. I'll just go ahead and accept all of these. Let's get this guy out the door. The dust of the transfer market has settled momentarily. I have to reassess and get back in there and see if there's any more guys. I have 15 still on trial at the club that have been deemed not bad. Not guys that I necessarily need either. They didn't get through the first wave, but a lot of the first wave offers that I had, well, the bad ones, let me rephrase that. They're not bad. The ones that are good, they have a high tendency to sign with us. The ones that are better, the ones that would be instant starters and impact players for our club, have a high tendency of signing with other teams. So it's been difficult on those particular ones. What happens when they're gone? Do I then move on to somebody who is going to give us squad depth and make us bigger, better depth-wise at a position? It worked last season pretty well doing that because that was ultimately most everything that we ended up signing until late in the year. But is that what we want to do now as we enter League One? I think the big thing on that is how many holes do we still need to fill? And kind of go from there on who else of that remaining 15 do we offer. And then meanwhile, of course, I'm just continuing to scout and look for better options. And speaking of, there's somebody right now that I'm in negotiations with a team on whether we can maybe get started. Player's really reluctant, but hasn't flat said no, so we may be able to sign them. But there's a few other clubs coming in to offer as well. And if, they get to that point of negotiations, chances are they're at a higher level, have higher reputation. Chances are we're not going to get that guy. But anyway, the ones we have managed to get is this group so far. We've brought in 10 players up to this point. Now, ultimately, we let a lot more than that go at the end of this last season. We have a fair number of players that we released at the end of the season and had some frees that headed out. Starting from the bottom, Ndidi, right back, not starter level for us, but could certainly play. He's got a good enough defensive bit about him, 15 tackling, good acceleration and pace, decent mentals. It's a bit of a mix, some high, some low, but 12 marking, and even the heading is a 9. So defensively, he's good for the defense. Offensively, guy can't shoot at all. He's got a 2 in finishing, 3 in corners. But he's got 7s and 9s in a lot of the other offensive stuff. So a more defensive-minded fullback, but somebody who can help us and is certainly an upgrade and much younger than a lot of the guys we were stuck with over the last couple seasons in the position outside of Pike. And he's definitely better than Pike was. A lot better, especially defensively. We've added Harry Evans as a new second backup goalkeeper. So he's above Ashby for sure, Ashby Hammond, but is just below Heggie. I cannot seem to find for the life of me, even though we've now had Heggie for 3 years, something like that. I still cannot find a better goalkeeper now. Heggie was a big upgrade, and we had the same problem when he suddenly came in front of us. For now, Evans makes me feel confident that we can at least, stop a shot. But and if something happens, he can step in and stop a shot almost as equally well as Heggie. But we just have not been able to get beyond him in these last couple of seasons. Casanova, another fullback, high potential, and his mentals are not there yet. His physicals are so-so, but he has a few technical abilities that the other one doesn't. So in the right situation, this guy could be more offensive, and he's definitely got a bit of a higher potential, but one thing they both have in common is definitely some potential. Bloxham, attacking mid, position that's been a real weakness for us. It says he's better than I think he actually is, but physically he's okay. Mentally, he's pretty okay. And technically, yeah, he's tolerable. But this is a guy with high potential, and that's the main reason for signing him. If he can take off, it could definitely be as a good backup for now, but if he can take off, I think he can become something quite good for us. Barrington, a winger, has some decent technicals, has good pace. Things fall off. He's a backup. Trey Chase, really worried about how he has looked since signing. But let's hope that getting him in some competitive games will make a difference. This was a guy with high potential, but not much of a current ability that we signed as an 18-year-old that we figured, hey, we can stuff him in the U18s for the year and then put him in the reserves for a couple of years and see if he grows. Right now he's going the opposite direction and seems to be falling off the potential. So this was the first signing that we made. James Moore has been brought in on loan from Blackburn for the season. Defensive mid, massive shortcoming at defensive mid. I couldn't find guys. The guys I brought in on trial have not been terribly good or have definitely quickly signed with other teams. And this guy's okay, but he's coming in as a squad player. Tom Saunders, we have signed, but it's another one for the future. 18. Put him on the U19 squad, and yeah, not good enough anytime soon. I think I already showed this one to you, though. Adam Martin has come in on loan, and Adam Martin is, for now, definitely one of the two starting defensive mids. I have added one pretty solid signing besides Nah, who I already told you about previously, and the other lone player, the third one, Bull, who's coming in as the starting attacking mid, but I at least have two guys to replace Tanner there and replace Ford, so Ford can go back and play on top with Oboa heading out any day, I would think here. He's just got a big decision to make as there's, a good 15 clubs that have offered us that 70K. But anyway, Frankie Terry cost me $1.1 million to bring him in, and Frankie Terry comes in. He can play fullback. We can put him at left. We could have him and Nah both out there going for it, being aggressive, very strong defensive players that can offer at least a bit offensively. But he actually comes in as a really strong center back for us and allows us to not have our reliance. Muir still, I think, fine as a second option, but if Terry becomes your first option, well, then all of a sudden we don't need Alfie Doy and Charlie Wilson so much. And as much as I love Wilson, he's not progressed much, very little even, and he's almost at his maximum potential. And I think we're now a league above where he can really honestly play. He was great for National League. He wasn't great for National League. He was great for National League North. He was very good for National League. He was just good enough to play a little bit for League 2. He's not really good enough for League 1. So finding somebody like Frankie Terry is good. The guy I'm trying to sign right now, also a center back. I'm really trying to strengthen that back line because I seem to have more defenders right now that are willing to sign with us, and we can tend to get them for about $1 million or less, which is well within our budget range. We have more than enough money to make those kind of deals, and if we can really shore up that back line, then I don't worry too much about what happens on the rest. We may not score a ton of goals, but if we're not giving up much, we can go out there and play a style of soccer that can score us a lot of points at least, and maybe get us mid-table, and then eventually build that reputation a little bit more, and then bring in the rest of the squad that we need to get there, because we're almost drawing the interest now. But again and again, if the player has 5 offers, we're the 5th one on that list because of how low our reputation is. So I'm almost having an easier time with transfer deals than trying to sign somebody on a free, because on a free lots of clubs want him, and they see that I offer, and so then they throw in an offer, and he picks them over us. With the transfer offer, not as many clubs are willing to step up and put in that offer sheet and match that. It's just down to whether the player's willing to play for us. And because of the level and because of the finances and the slowly growing reputation, we're able to just achieve enough for that. So right now, that's been where we've been pulling in more players lately. Same with the loans. I mean, that's been a helpful way. We finally have enough of a reputation where we are able to get a few loans out there. But you can clearly see our top 3 guys at the moment are Terry, Na, and Indweni. The search is going to continue. The player that I mentioned moments ago, Manlouis, is that other backline guy that I was looking to strengthen. We had a deal for $1 million to get him, but he ended up signing with Huddersfield. So we'll keep looking for the next. Even if I can only get 1 out of 5 of these better players to sign for us, one's that needle in the haystack that's going to continue to build our program. So I have to keep going haystack to haystack with that pitchfork, and we'll find those needles. But it just takes extra time, extra effort. It certainly makes this playthrough significantly harder that we are building from no reputation whatsoever, because the finances are great, but we still have those challenging aspects, and that is by far the most challenging aspect standing in the club's way. In terms of the 15 guys that I still have in on trial, some of the decisions were starting to look pretty easy. Either I have enough depth at the position already, and there's one guy left who, when you check him out, fits into the depth chart, can play, can contribute. So, as long as his demands aren't absurd, since he'll be a backup, and even then I can certainly afford it, but doesn't mean I want to pay absurd rates. The decision becomes easy. So I've got some offers already in place, but there's one position here that has the bulk, more than half of these trialists that remain, and one position that really has not provided anything as of yet. Literally the only 3 guys at the top of the depth chart that exist on our club right now are all in on loan and stand to be the key guys in the position. So Adam Martin is definitely here to play defensive mid. It's his best position. But Bull, he's here to play attacking mid, and I do not plan on playing him as a defensive mid. James Moore right now is the squad player defensive mid. He's a good third option. I don't like him as a starter, though. I really don't, and I think we can find better. I hope we can find better. Josh Powell isn't a defensive mid. Yes, he can play there, but it's not the profile. He just doesn't fit the role. I'm not planning on playing Powell. He's still a okay backup left back, more of a reserve squad kind of guy right now. I don't think he's going to really get seen in the squad a whole lot more. Kane Ryan, center backup. That's his best position, no matter what they're saying. And I have put a bid in on him, as we do need another one, and he's pretty affordable, but I don't want to play him at defensive mid. He can play the defensive side. He can help with the ball recovery, but he won't help at all with ball progression. I can't even really honestly play him as a ball playing defender. So that's not an option. And that already brings us back down to Moore, who I mentioned. So I have 7, which, like I said, there was 15 overall. Excluding Ryan from the list, you include him, it's more than half, but roughly half of the group. They all have, at least according to the assistant coach, same ability, same potential. So I'm going to have to really deep dive into these guys and see who can play where. Realistically, I'm going to offer 2 of them. One as the ball playing defensive mid, and one more as the anchor who's going to help ball recovery. But like I've already said with Ryan, he might be able to play as an anchor and help recover the ball, but I want both guys to be able to do both roles. I want them to be more or less interchangeable. It's fine to have your strength, but you can't be bad at the other. Not by League One, right? It's okay if you're down in the 6th tier, 5th tier, and have a player who is very one-sided on that, and you have an excellent playmaker. If he doesn't help recover the ball very well, at least you have an excellent playmaker. League One and above, I just don't think that's adequate anymore. I think you really need to have players that can do both and are just maybe better at one than the other. With the deal finally done, Aboa is off to Watford, which is where he seemed to have wanted all along. That was his first choice from the get-go. He wanted to get in the Premier League. In the end, 9 of the 15 trialists that I had remaining have gotten a contract offer from me. I would expect that probably 8 out of 9 end up signing with us because, like I said, it's the better players that we're having issues with. These guys, we have a very high rate of signing, the vast majority, if not all of them. There's a couple of these 9 where I'd say, there's probably 2 guys that are very equivalent to each other, and you're bringing them both in to be the same backup. But for the most part, a lot of them are going to sit in the reserves anyway, and it's going to give us a couple years contract-wise to see who develops, who takes off, and actually becomes the proper backup while the other one, ends up being let go on a free in a couple years. But because of the finances not being an issue, that's not as big of a problem. We're not as desperate to have to pick one over the other player, and it makes a really big difference. Outside of the prospect of having any additional signings, we are now a week and a half away from the first league match. For right now, I'm not expecting any big fireworks, with the possible exception of actually finding a better player who's at a club that's asking, for $1 million plus, and we can bid that and hopefully not have other clubs step in and be willing to pay that at this time, and so we can get another one. We've gotten a couple guys that way, and I'm hoping to get 1 or 2 more before the season starts. But otherwise, that's the only activity I expect the rest of the way this off season. It's been another tough one like last season, but not as tough. Their reputation is definitely growing. It's definitely getting bigger. There was more players willing this time, but the same issues that we've been having all along, where when given a choice, we are not that choice. We are not the optimal choice. We are not the first pick. We are down that list. Now, there's been times where we're offering enough money and the others aren't, and they've ultimately signed with us, but it never seems to be with the better players, because the better players are getting offered good money from bigger clubs, where some of the guys are coming in and getting offers and they're good enough to make a difference for us, and out of 4 clubs offering them, 2 of them are a step below us. One of them might be at the same step than us, but they're offering them a really small contract, right? And you do just enough to outweigh the other options. But for the most part, when a choice exists, it's just not happening. Just not happening for us. But we've had a decent off season. We've made some moves, and I'm still very much in the market for more, especially on the defensive mid side, though we are getting ultimately 5 guys who could play the positions. I have given offers to 2 anchors, like I said, 2-for-1s a couple of times, 2 defensive minded anchors, both getting offers. One who is balanced and can do a little bit of everything, and I think might see the pitch a fair bit. Let me show you that one. He hasn't signed with us yet. We don't know that he will for sure. But let me show you that one. That's Elliot Jenks. So Elliot Jenks, good passing, good tackling, good first touch, decent dribbling, decent technique, okay marking, decent speed. He's a bit of a well-rounded. He's a proper central midfielder who can play kind of a box-to-box, but you can see he is both a ball-winning midfielder and a deep lying playmaker. So he can really play both positions and offers just about enough. He has one massive weakness. He's about a half inch taller than I am, but I have jumping reach. Considering I'm short, I outhead so many players, but when they're more than a foot taller than me, I just can't outjump. I can, outjump them by 8 inches, but I can't make up the 12 inches in deficit, and I can't win those headers. So I ultimately still have my shortcoming, but that's when I'm playing against somebody who's, 6'3", 6'6", 6'3" and can jump. 6'6", doesn't matter if they can jump or not. I just can't out jump somebody if they jump up at all. But his jumping reach is only a 4. His heading is only a 5. So he's not going to win headers, and that we'll see in time. He would need a partner who can head, but you don't need all 11 guys on the pitch to be good at headers. Usually fullbacks aren't as good at headers. Defensive mids, it's helpful if they can head, but if he can be good in attack and defense, and that's his weakness, we'll see how that plays out. But I think he's going to be one of the better options. And then I had the 2 more attacking guys, and the 2 more attacking guys can also double as my reserves, because I wasn't going to sign those 2, but they also double as my reserves at the center attacking mid position, so further up the pitch as a playmaker there. And because we didn't have any backups to that one, I ultimately just went ahead and offered both of those guys as well. But yeah, the roster's shaping up a lot better than it has I think last season, and last season we won League 2 comfortably. But that doesn't mean we're going to win League 1. I think we are making a jump here in the league, in the competition, and I'm not sure the players we've brought in so far are helping us enough. I think a couple more players like the guys that I've brought in, like these key 2 top guys, 2 more players like that, and I think we're winning League 1 and continuing to climb. Otherwise, it could be a couple of years here, but I think the reputation, if we stall out for a couple of years, the reputation's going to do a fair bit of catching up, and the signings will get easier. So I really don't think it's going to take I don't think it's going to be a 2-3 year project in League 1. I think maybe we stall out for a year and sit mid-table, or maybe we're still good enough to keep climbing. Or maybe as the season goes on, we could sign more of these Terrys and us and make it happen, right? Make it happen in time. So mixed bag on how I think that may go at this point. Noah is 31 already, so he's not going to have a lot of time to be really good, but of all of the signings, he's the only older player that I've brought in. So all these other guys are all 21, 22 years old, 17, 18 years old in a few of those cases. And so a lot of those reserve contracts that I let go, I've replaced. I have added, a guy to the U18s, and I've added a lot of depth again up here, having let a lot of guys go. And guys that were key players a year ago, or at least the key reserves, are now almost surplus to requirement. Redden, Ford, Christie, Amiobi. Ford's still the starter for now. So, and we lost a Boa. So maybe that's going to be one position that's going to need to be addressed in the short term. But I'm right back up to 8 players in the reserves, and they're all 2.5 star kind of guys. So they are on the edge. They are almost good enough. Don't necessarily need to be loaned out, because with only 8 players here, they're getting a lot of time in the reserves league. Though, in the end, I might loan out a couple of these guys. And then, like I said, I think we are making progress. I think we have gone the right direction this offseason. But as always, our reputation makes it so much harder to bring in the right players and to get them to actually commit. We're getting their attention. We're getting the offer. We're making them happy, but somebody else makes them happier. That's going to do it for this episode. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there, and bye for now.